Hello, and welcome to another episode of Selling the South, the Upstate's real estate podcast. I'm Blake Kirsch, a third-generation realtor here in the Upstate of South Carolina. My guest today is a really good friend of mine, the Spartanburg County Auditor, Miss Sharon West. She is an elected official in Spartanburg and is a wealth of knowledge about taxes and about everything to do with Spartanburg, and is just very well connected in that world. So I have a lot of good questions for her. We are both drinking our Barista Alley coffee and tea this morning to try to keep ourselves going. So we'll just get started. How are you?
I'm great, Blake, and I hope you are.
I'm very good. I'm so glad that you're here with me. And I've been really, since I started doing this podcast, I knew I wanted to have you on. First of all, because I love you to death, but also because I know we have a lot of good questions that you have good answers to.
I hope.
I know you do.
I'm very excited. This is my first podcast.
I think a lot of my guests, this has been their first podcast. I know definitely Buck Brandt was one of my guests. Yeah. It was his first podcast. And my grand, Peggy Blackwell.
I saw that. Yeah.
She, definitely her first podcast.
I know. Well, she was beautiful on there.
She was fun, and she's been enjoying watching it. So, well, let's get started. So, first of all, what is the job of the county auditor? I guess, you're the Spartanburg County Auditor. Every county has an auditor. What's that job entail?
It entails a lot of information gathering. We gather information. We use that information to calculate your tax bill. There's a lot of numbers coming in from the assessor's office, gives us our real estate values. Department of Revenue gives us our vehicle, business, personal property, manufacturing values. DMV gives us the automobiles that are in my county. Then DR gives us those values. We get information from FAA and from National Guard, and we put values on that property, and that gives us a whole total assessment for the whole county. And then we break it up into districts. We put the correct assessment in the correct district. Depending on what district you live in, will determine what your levy is for that year.
Mm. And so as the auditor, I guess, the legislators make the tax laws and the tax rules, and then as the elected official, you're kind of in charge of executing
Correct.
those. Okay.
Correct. We have some discretion, but most of our work is done based on Title 12 and Title 56.
Okay. And I guess a good question too, which we learn in real estate school, and when people ask me, especially we have a lot of people now that move here from California, from Texas, everywhere like that. They want to know how their property taxes are calculated here. And I usually I explain it to them, and then I say, but that really means Lord knows what, because I don't really know how it works myself.
Right, especially from California. And in a way, our new 388 that changed in 2006 sort of made us a little bit like California. But we are quite different. And
so how are our property taxes calculated here?
We take the value of the house. Let's just say you live in a house, and we take the value of that house, and if that's your legal residence, that's on your driver's license and your voter registration, we take 4% of that value, and we use that levy that we calculated from the assessments coming in, and we apply that levy to the 4% value of your home, and that gives you your total tax. Now, on the home that you live in, we calculate how much millage belongs to general operating school, and we deduct that as your state relief on your legal residence home.
Oh,
if you own a 6%
that's about as clear as mud, I think, for everybody. Well, but, I guess most of our property tax, I guess, then is based off the value, and then the millage rate and all this calculations happen, and then we get our...
Well, we start with the dollar value, and then we do 4% of the dollar value. That gives me an assessment. Then we multiply that by that levy that we calculate. The levy comes from your school district, tells me how much they need, your water district, sewer district, fire district. They tell me how much they need, and we use the assessment and calculate how many meals each one of those entities need, and that gives me your total levy. So I use your total levy multiplied by your 4% assessment, and that gives me the gross tax. Then I take the school levy, which is the biggest part, 60 to 75% of the levy. We multiply the value of your house by that, and that gives me the exemption.
That is the first time anybody's explained millage to me, but that makes it much more tangible. It shows what, where those numbers are coming from, things we actually use and need every day. So that makes a lot more sense. As the county auditor, what types of personal property are you taking taxes up on? I know I pay my car taxes to you. I know I pay my boat taxes to you.
Yes.
Is there any other things that you guys?
We tax, well, your car. Actually, the cars are personal value, but vehicle is a total separate entity now for us. Boats are different. We tax boats and cars monthly. So we do personal, we do your business personal property. All this in here is business personal property. So Max should be making a return on this every year to Greenville County. And we also tax the real estate, the land, the house, the mobile home. We'll tax manufacturers. That information comes from the Department of Revenue. The manufacturers make a return to the department. They calculate how much is taxable based on all of their credits, and they send that to us, and we tax the manufacturers. So just about everything in Spartanburg County except the citizens we tax.
And the I guess the manufacturers or like businesses, for example, our office, I know we have to pay taxes on our property, like our desks.
Correct.
So is that's what you're talking about?
Personal property, correct. We call that BPP, business personal property.
Okay.
Your building will be taxed at, if you're a small business like this, the building would be taxed at 6%. The equipment would be taxed at 10.5%.
Okay.
And it's depreciated. So it's, we take the sale price and it's depreciated depending on what kind of equipment it is. And that gives us the net value to tax.
My poor old desk in Bull Springs, it better be really depreciated. I don't know what we fail in
We
taxes
can depreciate it down 90% to 10%.
Oh, good. We also in South Carolina, one thing that I noticed through the counties, especially when I sell a property and I see, that a property might be worth now over $1 million, but it still has this low tax because it hasn't been sold in a long time.
Yep.
How does, I guess, the county auditor's office go and reappraise the value of these properties?
The assessor sends out appraisers. Now, under our law right now, we can reappraise every 4 years and implement on the 5th, meaning that the value of the property, 12/31, will go into the following year's tax. Now, that real estate can only go up 15% over 5 years. And the levy is capped to CPI plus growth in your district. So that's capped. But when that property sells, the cap pops off and that new value takes over.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I kind of feel like that's kind of like Proposition 13 in California, because you could own a property there and never move and it stays low, but the minute your neighbor sells, that shoots way up high. And that's the same thing here. When it sells, that cap pops off and the value of your home will be something near the selling price.
And that's interesting too for the current time that we're in, because many of the properties in Spartanburg or across the state since in the last 3 years have either gone up, doubled in value, or gone up 50% in value. So that's a lot of work on you guys to try to start keeping up on that.
It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of information flowing. When you sell a property, the deed goes to our deed office, the RMC office. She checks it, everything's good, the map reference is on there, the seller and the buyer. That goes to the assessor's office, and they key that in. And since it's a new buyer, they look at the price, that buyer paid for it, and that's how they start reviewing that value on that home.
Those records too are extremely helpful to realtors. The CRS website and tax search websites are how we find out, who the actual owners of the property are, who's on the deed, what the historical taxes have been. Even on there, you guys keep up with bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, acreage, when the house was built. So the tax assessor's office and the CRS website is very useful in a lot of professions, I'm sure, but definitely to realtors. I've definitely leaned on you for this before. We do, unfortunately, have some people who don't pay their property taxes or are unable to pay their property taxes, and over a time, they eventually come to a tax sale. How does a tax sale in South Carolina work?
Well, if you don't pay your tax, your 2023 tax, by November or December of 2024, it's going to go to the tax sale. And you have to sign up to get a bidder number. You get the bidder number, and on the day of the sale, you bid on whatever property you want to bid on. And you have to have the money within, I don't know if it's 24 hours, you have to be able to pay what you bid. And we take the tax money out of that, pay all the taxes on that property. Then we hold if he bid over the taxes, we call that overbid. We hold that overbid, and that defaulting taxpayer can claim that at the end of a year. The bidder who won the bid will not be able to take possession of the property until the end of the year. We have to hold it a year, and the owner can come in anytime during that year and redeem it. If he doesn't, then the bidder who took the bid, we will issue a deed to that bidder, but it's just a tax deed. Mm-hmm. They'll want to definitely take that deed and have it quieted at the master's office.
Mm. And, one way that came into play with me this year, I had some clients who didn't live here, inherited a property, and their property went into tax sale because they could not access the estate accounts. They had the money, but they didn't have anybody in their court helping them figure out how to access somebody to pay the taxes. So between Sharon's office and me and our attorneys, we worked that out for them because obviously we wanted them to be able to access the money, pay their taxes, sell the property, because that was in the best interest of the community and of
absolutely
and of those owners. So it's not always a bad thing.
Too, like people think that we throw widows and orphans out in the street. That is so far from the truth, because the property that we sell, generally we sell the same property because it's property nobody wants. We have a gully that people will say, oh, well, there's an acre of land, I'm going to bid on that. They go and it's nothing but a gully. We actually sold a parking space one time. The Chamber of Commerce building where Spartanburg 1 is now, when you leased an office, they gave you the parking space. Well, it was taxable property. So if you didn't pay that tax, we could sell it. Well, here we are with a piece of property in that area at the tax sale, and it looked very interesting. But all it was a parking space, not a parking lot, a parking space.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so we don't sell property that people live in. I think statewide, we did this years ago, but we did a little survey statewide. There was probably 500 properties statewide that actually got sold. And then of those, a good high percentage of that is property that people don't want. They may live out of state like your client, and someone passed away and left it, and they're not interested in paying the tax or having anything to do with that property, so they let it go to sale.
Is it often that people also maybe just inherited a piece of property or had a piece of property and don't know, and and maybe they lose it that way? I can see that. I'm dealing with that in Gaffney right now. A lady's husband used to be a plumber, and some people would pay him by deeding part of their property to him years ago. And now he passed away with all this property, and she has no idea where it is. She just pays the tax bills as they come. Yeah. So, I could see that being an issue too.
If what happens is we notify that defaulting taxpayer so many times. If he's deceased, we try to find the heir, the next of kin. If there's a mortgage company involved, we are bound by law to notify the mortgage company. So we send out several notices. We send out certified notices to different, either the owner, the heirs, the bank. We also take a big, bright pink colored sign and we stick it in the yard so that anybody passing by will see that and maybe contact somebody that has some knowledge of who owns that. But we try to, make sure
our
everybody
best.
knows. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's just falling through the cracks.
And
It's,
if somebody did fall through the cracks and they said, well, I didn't know about that, then we can cancel sales. So our goal is not to put people out or not to take people's property. Our goal is to collect the taxes that are due so that everybody in the county is paying their fair share based on what they own.
and there's not holes in the system where these people aren't paying taxes where somebody else could be owning that property and paying the taxes on it.
No, they can pay the taxes on it, but they wouldn't own it. They would be paying the taxes for the legal owner.
Oh, what I was saying is, it's not just empty property sitting there for years and years. We have a system in place where somebody can, go to the tax sale, buy it, and then
Correct.
take it over as a legitimate owner and
Absolutely.
then pay taxes and,
Absolutely.
be beneficial to the community. We touched on this a little bit, but this is very important in real estate and probably the number one thing we cover at real estate closings, which is the 4% tax affidavit. So, Sharon, how can somebody apply for the 4% tax affidavit, and what is the process that they go about doing that? And then my other question with that is, I have had clients in the past who, even though I've told them and the attorneys told them to apply for their 4%, they forget and they do not, and then they get this big tax bill. How can they backtrack that or get money back or that kind of thing?
In addition to that, when the deed comes through and it's a new owner, the assessor automatically sends out a statement of assessment. And it tells that new owner, you're the owner of this property, here's the value. And if it's your legal residence, please fill out this form. If there's any error in this, contact us. So we send a form. Even if that doesn't work, when they get that tremendous tax bill and they go crazy and they call us, they can fix it right then. They can come to the assessor's office, fill out the 208 form, bring driver's license, voter registration, car registration, and they can fix it, and we will lower the tax for them. But even if they pay it at 6, we'll do a refund.
Okay.
And it's terrible when they're making house payments and y'all tell them, well, the tax is going to be $1,000, and it comes back and it's $6,000.
Yeah.
Their escrow account goes crazy. Their house payment goes up. So then that notifies that owner, you forgot to do something, right?
Yes.
So they call
But some
us.
people don't notice that and they just keep on paying it. And so how
you're
long
right.
is the, statute of limitations? Is it 1 year or 2 years?
2 years.
2 years. you
We
can
go
refund
back
them.
2 years.
Well, that's good to know. And I have some people I can go ahead and tell that to. But I think that's one of our best parts about owning a home in South Carolina, or I'm sure states have similar rules, but if it's your home, you get pretty much, you're paying 1/3 the tax of an investment property. So
Absolutely.
you get a big
It's a
break.
tremendous savings.
Absolutely.
People think it's 2%, but it's so much more because we start out at 2% less on the tax assessment, but we take off all that school tax. So it's a very big savings.
And usually I tell people it's about 2/3 more if they don't apply for the 4%.
It is.
Wow. The other, tax exemption that we deal with the most, and I'm sure you deal with the most, and I think it's probably also one of the other really beneficial things to the people in our community is the homestead tax exemption. So what is that, and how do you guys apply that to people?
Well, you have to be 65 years of age or older, totally disabled, totally and permanently by Social Security, or legally blind. And you can apply for that homestead exemption. And what that does is take takes the entire tax off the first $50,000 of value of your home. You do have to apply for that through either Social Security. Well, you have to come to my office and bring us some proof. But it takes a few minutes just to fill out the form. If you're 65, if you become 65 this year, then you'll qualify for 2025. And if you've moved here, you have to live here a year as of 12/31. So you would have had to move here in 2022 to qualify for this year.
That's one thing that I do run into a good bit now. People come from other states. They already have a homestead tax exemption, and I have to tell them, you can go ahead and apply for the 4% and get your exemption for that. But then you have to wait a year and live here in this house a year before you can go back and apply for your homestead. And, you know, that is something that I try to keep up with and remind people. And I know that our attorneys do a good job of that too, because some people can forget, but
They can. And we have all that online now. So all that, they can go online. It's very simple to apply for the homestead online. The 208 form is online. So they can do it online if they're smart enough. Now me, I'm not smart. I don't do anything online, but yeah, we have it all online now.
you can also just walk in the Sharon's office. I'm sure
I
they'll
would just
sign
love
out
to
with
have
you.
them walk in.
Do you, and that happens all over South Carolina. That's not a Spartanburg specific.
It's a state law.
Yes. All of these pretty much we're discussing are
Yes,
all
state
across
law.
the state. Spartanburg differs in some different ways, I think, with our taxes from other counties, obviously, but majority of these laws are state level laws. Okay. What types of real estate in Spartanburg County or in South Carolina in general are tax exempt that don't pay any kind of property taxes?
Okay, if you're a disabled veteran from a military injury, then you have your house and 2 cars tax free. Also, a firefighter, law officer, if they're injured in the line of duty and they're declared totally and permanently disabled, they can get the Army veteran can get a house and 2 vehicles tax free. The only thing they would have to pay on the house would be the landfill fee. So no matter how high priced the house is, you would pay $74 landfill fee.
Is landfill fee part of everybody's property taxes too? That's something that I pay in my property tax.
Right. If there's a building on the property, there's $74 landfill fee. If you live in some of these other cities, the city also puts a fee on there. Some of them are extremely high, but if you don't live in a city, $74 is what you pay for landfill fee.
Because they pick up the trash and yard debris in the city. Is that right? Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have, I mean, everybody who's been in public office as long as you have is going to have some interesting stories, but what would be a story maybe that stands out in your head since you've been the Spartanburg County Auditor, something interesting that's happened to you?
So many.
I bet
We had a lady that came in about a week ago. She wanted a refund on her car. Well, to get that, you have to sign your car over to somebody else. So we asked her, who did you sign the car over? She said, I signed it over to myself. And I said, well, you cannot get a refund. So then she wanted to apply for a job. We sent her to HR, and she tells the HR girls, she said, I need an interpreter. And they said, well, do you need Russian? Do you need Spanish? She said, no, I'm nonverbal.
She said she's nonverbal?
She said she's nonverbal, and she's been talking to us half the day. So HR called security and said, we believe she needs to leave.
Well, I think sometimes I need to be more nonverbal and keep my mouth shut. So maybe
No, we also had a girl that called, and because how our records look online, it'll only show the first line. So she looked up her real estate, and her husband's name was on there. She looked up her car, and her husband's name only showed. And she called me up and wanted to know why. And she said, well, this might sound crazy to you, but she said, I think somebody's trying to kill me, and they're trying to erase all proof of my existence. And she thought we were in on the conspiracy.
Hey.
We were taking her name off.
Oh,
I said, ma'am, no, if you'll come up here, I will show you your deed. I actually sent her a copy of her deed to show her.
So she's not going to get murdered. Oh my gosh. I'm not surprised. I've had people ask me similar things, or ask me or ask me to make sure that the husband's name is listed first and not the wives. Some people are very particular about that. I've had never fails, so you never know.
People are funny.
Yes, people are very funny in both of our jobs, I'm sure. How is your office? Everybody in Spartanburg is dealing with, from the roads to every part of our infrastructure, dealing with this giant explosion of our population and huge amount of development in Spartanburg and in the upstate of South Carolina. How is your office, coping with that? With I'm sure a lot more workload, a lot more people.
A lot more people coming in, and each person coming in wants to register 2 vehicles. But we're able to keep up. It's a very efficient process we do now, and we can get the car registered in just a few minutes and get them in and out. We call them treat them and street them. We get them in and out very quickly, and unless there is a problem, they can do it in one day or even a half a day with us and DMV. And right here, let me tell you, Blake, and you need to advertise this. In our new building, which they're planning now, we're trying to get a DMV full service DMV.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
So the people who are having problems, like they give us the wrong name for the vehicle, it doesn't match the title, they walk right down the hall instead of having to drive to DMV. So that's going to be very, very helpful to everybody that comes in our office. And we probably at least half of our people coming in will have to leave our office and go to DMV now. So if we can get that done, and we've got petitions stacked up, we know right now we're planning it so we can plan the room for them. Everybody that we mention it to, oh yes, let's do that. So we got petitions right and left.
Because right now what she's talking about is a lot of people go down to the tax office to pay their taxes.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have their new driver's license, so they have to go back to the DMV. And then, it's always back and forth. Even I've done that in the past before. So that would be a huge, I guess this is a good time to say and ask, I know your office is moving to the new city-county complex.
Correct.
Which is very exciting, because if you don't know right now, the Spartanburg County Auditor's office and the Spartanburg County Coroner's office are in the back of a very old building. The best part about going there is it's across the street from Krispy Kreme, so you can get a donut. But what are y'all planning for your new space? When do you move, and what's happening with that?
It'll probably be, we're just now getting square footage needs. And it's starting to take shape right now. So it'll be like 3 to 4 years before it's totally complete. There will also be a big parking garage, parking deck. And they're planning on giving us enough extra space to expand for 50 years down the road. Doubt that I'll be here. And also we're, doing a few little things, like we have, our building is handicap access, but we don't have a window that's down. So my new office will have a window that will be very easy for a person in a wheelchair to do business there. Also, if we can get the DMV in there, it'll be so much easier on our folks to take care of their business in one day in one place.
And you'll have less upset people, I'm sure, too.
They'll be thrilled. And we're also hoping that having that building there and having people coming there because they have to come there, they will go uptown to Spartanburg and do some shopping or eat lunch. We're hoping that'll help the growth in the city. So we're hoping that'll have a lot of advantages for some of the stores.
And just the people working there too, having walkability to downtown now.
Yeah, correct.
Go have lunch. That's great. Tell me what you were telling me. Who is the Spartanburg County coroner right now? I know you were telling me an interesting story about their move.
Rusty Clevenger is the coroner. and and I don't remember if it's 17 veterans who have passed away and their bodies have been unclaimed. Some since I think 2006 or 7, and they've been in the coroner's office storage. So this morning they're having a ceremony, or had the ceremony at 10:30, and they're taking those bodies to the cemetery at Fort Jackson and burying them with military honors.
Wow.
Down in Columbia. So they're going to call out the name of the 17, and they're going to have a member of the armed forces speak of that person. And it's just going to be a real moving ceremony. And when I left this morning, there was a good crowd gathering for that.
So these are maybe, I guess, older veterans that lived in our community that passed away, and their bodies were not claimed.
Their bodies were not claimed yet.
Wow. You know, I really appreciate the job that you do, and I also appreciate, you know, we still live in Spartanburg, we still live in a smaller community where I'm able to have a question about taxes, pick up the phone and call our county auditor, which is very nice. And I hope that doesn't change for a long time. So I appreciate you. What is your favorite part about being the county auditor?
Just meeting the people. I love to have people come in and sit down and talk about a problem that to them seems insurmountable. And to us that do the work, we see it time and time again. So we can walk them through that. We can help them. They are so appreciative. And they'll call you and one lady would call me and Chuck Wright regularly and pray for us on the phone. And because we would look out after her, the little things that are easy to us, that are complicated to these people who don't do it every day, and we do that for them, and it means so much to them, and they are so sweet and so kind and bless us, and I just love that. I just love meeting the people.
I'll say too that, you know, I've learned, and I know from knowing you, that the county auditor is not, you know, the tax man coming out to get as much money as they can. Really, you're helping people by making them aware of ways they can have tax breaks.
Correct.
Helping them make sure they're getting the proper tax breaks that have been legislated. You know, if we didn't have that position and somebody actively doing that, there'd be a lot of people paying more taxes than really they're required to.
Correct.
So I think that's a beautiful part of your job, and I know I appreciate it. I know we're realtors, if you don't know, are independent contractors. We pay a lot of taxes. So
yeah, I know
property taxes, it's nice to know we have a bit of a break in some places.
Yeah.
I want to end every episode of this show with shouting out a local nonprofit that is near and dear to my guest's heart. I know you're involved with a ton of them. Is there one that you would like to speak about right now?
Probably the same one that touches your heart is the cancer, National Cancer Institute, and any kind of cancer fund I give to that, because I've seen people suffer with that disease, and I would love to see it wiped out. And if anybody or everybody would just kind of help like you do, Blake, every year, and we appreciate that, maybe one day you don't have to watch your loved ones struggle and suffer like that.
Exactly. And I think too, an opportunity for the Spartanburg County Auditor's Office and the Cancer Association of Spartanburg and Cherokee Counties to work together. We have a lot of older clients who are probably 65 and older, and now they are considered disabled once they have gone through treatment, or they're just having a difficult time. So we may need to get a pamphlet or something for homestead exemption in the Cancer Association office so they can.
Well, we can certainly get you some.
Cool. Well, let's do that. Well, Sharon, I appreciate you. I thank you so much. I hope we can get your daughter on here sometime soon. I know
you can.
She's a wealth of information as well. And I hope you'll still pick up my phone calls if I have a tax question.
Anytime, Blake.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Selling the South. I'm Blake Kirsch. Have a good day.